in this video, I'll be showing you guys how to install window tint on a frameless window, or specifically a 2025 Tesla Model Y. So the first thing that I'm going to do is going to be wipe the outside of the glass to make sure I don't scratch my tint whenever I'm shrinking, cutting, or anything else. If you guys are curious how to pull the panel, you don't have to because it's a frameless window. You can just tuck down into the panel or into the seal. But if it gives you guys any issues, then much more higher risk of contamination. But it's just a habit of mine. They're so easy. I don't mind doing it. It's just what I recommend. So panel's clean. Top section of this door panel or door is clean. So now I'm going to lay my tint and show you guys how I would cut it. I'm going to be hand cutting, but with a pre-cut. I would just show you guys how to do it regularly, how to hand cut, like, you know, bulk, but I forgot. So I made my pre-cuts and I'll show you guys what the process would look like. If I were to hand cut it, you just have to imagine it's a bigger piece of tint. If I'm just laying it out, I would line up my bottom edge as my straight edge, and then I'd come cut my front, shift it forward, cut my back, shift it forward a tiny bit more so it's not overlapping on the, or it's not over on this back edge, and then I would do the top cut. So I'm just gonna line it up and then I'll show you guys how I'm gonna do those cuts. All right, so now just imagine this is a big piece of tint. I've laid it out. I've got my bottom lined up. I'll take my Sharpie. I'll be showing you guys with the Sharpie so you don't have to cut on the glass or on the window. So I would come in here, poke it in, mark my front edge. Then after I mark my front edge, take my knife and I'd come in here and cut my back edge. You don't want your tint to be too big, so you shift it forward just a tiny bit so there's the tiniest gap right here along this back edge. So that's what I'll do. I'll shift it forward the tiniest bit. It doesn't help that these Teslas have laminated glass, so it's a glass, and then typically they're very consistent. I've seen some crazy ones where the outside piece of glass is way bigger than the inside piece of glass. So you basically have two different windows glued together, and so regardless, this will get you very close, which is definitely good enough for a lot of people. I'm very picky, so I go further and I shave or I file afterwards. But I have my front cut marked, my back cut done, because you can't mark it on a frameless window. So back cut done, and I'm gonna squeeze it in place to do my top cut. So I keep it the exact same angle the entire way through. I didn't love that, so I'm gonna do one more. There we go. I got a little bit more off. Now all it's left to do is connect the dots, round the corners, and shrink it, and then install it. Okay, so I've squeegeed my pattern in place, and if this was your guys's, you would still have your front to cut. So you see here, I'll show you guys on the glass. That's this right here that sticks out. So if you kind of take note of that, it does stick out quite a bit. So whenever you make your cutout, you would do your front cut and then just make your way out here a little bit. It's not going to be perfect. Also, that won't really ever show because this is it in the up position that it only is in when it's closed. And right now it's open so you can see it, but when it's closed, it would be tucked into here. But you definitely want that to look pretty. It's not gonna be perfect. So you'll wanna take note of that, but you see your Sharpie line here. You can really cut just right barely in front of it. You have to shift it forward after you make your back cut. So you're already going to tuck it in some. If you want to be, more safe, you cut more in front of it, but you don't have, especially on these Teslas, these front seals, whenever you're tucking them into the front seals, they tend to be pretty tight. So I tend to not leave very much on here at all. But now what I'm going to do is, connect my dots. Obviously there's no dot here, but I'm just going to follow this straight edge and then make sure this is nice and rounded. So I line up the straight edge, I cut along it, and then I come in here and round this up pretty nicely. This for yours, you would come in here on your Sharpie line, and then wherever your Sharpie line ends, that's when you would start to curve up just a little bit and give it some material in front, and then just round your way to this top edge. Here I'm also connecting the dots. Like I said, I usually end up filing and shaving and whatnot, so most of this gets filed anyways or shaved. This is how you would make the cutout. Come in here, line up your straight edge, and that's it. Round that back corner and do the same thing on the bottom one. Line up your straight edge, cut along it, and since this is a frameless window, every edge except for the front and bottom need to be as straight as possible because they will be visible. Your bottom edge and your front one will not, so they can be somewhat jagged, but you know, if you're first starting, that's fine, but you really want to keep stuff as straight as possible. The next step will be to shrink your pattern or your window tint cutout. I call it pattern. I bring it on over to my window, and I'm actually going to do it a different way than I typically do it. See if it works any better. So you just bring over your pattern, line everything up somewhat closely. Doesn't have to be perfect at all. And then you want a gap here, so you're not putting heat directly onto like these trim pieces and burning them up. I go to the midpoint of the top edge, squeegee out that way, squeegee out this way, and then I squeegee down the bottom and the front. And that should leave all your extra material here at the bottom. There's going to be some very minor ones popping up here on top. Those are fine. Those won't be an issue when you install. And what this does is, instead of shrinking right on these fingers and creating a whole lot of tension in a small area, it kind of spreads it out. So I usually pick up tint by taking a finger just like that, pull down and a tiny bit out, because this is a whole lot of material. Kind of go side to side, and it'll want to hug itself to the glass. And to test if it's shrunk enough, come in here and just start to squeegee everything out. You gotta be careful because there is quite a bit of tension. Let's see. So it looks like it almost shrunk too much. So it would give me a little bit of trouble to lay down, so I might have over shrunk it just a little bit. It's not much of a problem. It'll give me some issues when I'm installing it, but if I squeegee out correctly, if I read the tension correctly, I'll be just fine. But that's how you pocket shrink. This is a very extreme shrink, a Tesla Model Y specifically. All Teslas are going to have a pretty aggressive shrink, but the Model Y especially. 90% of cars that I do, I don't even need to shrink because I'm bottom loading. The other 8% are extremely simple shrinks. I shrink on a flat glass on my peel board with the pocket shrink. And aggressive ones like this, I'll do like this, or I have the individual fingers and I do it like that. That I've demonstrated in a different video. But that way, as you guys see my different content, you guys can see a bunch of different techniques that I use and that could work, so you can find what's most comfortable for you, not just one way and that way. So yeah, try these different ones out, and whichever one you're most comfortable with, stick with that one. Okay, I've got my pattern shrunk, got my panel removed. Now I can begin to prep to install. I'll give it a mist, then I'll come in here with my non-score scrub pad. The edges are gonna be where you find the most dirt and where you have to clean the most, especially because they sit inside of a seal that to some extent water, dirt, whatever does get trapped into, and the window just sits on that the entire time the door is closed on these frameless windows. So you want to pay extra attention and focus on those edges way more than the rest. Now this is a brand new 2025 Model Y, so it should be very clean, but this is how you can check after scrubbing. You want to go with your hand and feel it. I found two little specks of like dirt that were still on, and I just scratched them off right now with my fingernail. That's what you want to do. After that, you want to take a towel to collect any dirt that you just loosened up from these edges, especially on a laminated glass like this. There's a channel where those two pieces of glass go together. In between those two pieces, it just collects dirt. So you want to be extra thorough. When you scrubbed it, yeah, you loosened it all, but it's all still sitting there. So that's why you want to grab it with a towel, and then your towel is going to leave lint. So I flush the crap out of these edges. I miss the center, and then I go over these edges with a scraper very thoroughly. You can scrape the entire glass. In fact, I'll do it just to show you so you don't have to be scared. But I don't anymore. Especially on newer vehicles, there's no need. You always run the risk of damaging it. If you do it carefully and you use the right technique, you keep the blade at the correct angle, then you're gonna be fine. But you do always run a risk. No matter how good you are, there is still a risk. Very small one, but there is still a risk. And the newer cars get, the softer glass gets, especially these Teslas, super, super soft glass. So you wanna be careful, but you can do it. Do I recommend it? Not really. You can get away with a scrub pad. You have the right chemicals. They'll get rid of any glue and stuff like that if you need to. But if you really have to, you can scrape. But I don't recommend it. You don't really need to. Now after I've scraped, I'll spray squeegee spray, something I got from Window Tint Warriors. That's who I watched when I first learned. Great channel. Lots of information, nothing super in depth, but definitely got me a long way when I first started. So after I squeegeed all that dirty water off, I come in and I squeegee down, or I tri-edge, hard card, whatever you have, down the front. And then I'm going to flush down the front so that that's nice and lubricated whenever I install, and to get rid of any dirt hanging out in there. And I do one more spray squeegee spray. I will clean with this squeegee now, so it's a little more firm and it gets more, but it's my installing squeegee, which whenever you're first starting, you can absolutely use one squeegee for everything. I did for so long, and a lot of professionals still do it. A lot of people don't like carrying a lot of tools around. You don't have to. With the right techniques, you can make a little bit go a long way. So don't let anybody tell you you need this and you need that. So now my window is clean, and I'm going to very thoroughly, aggressively, liberally spray the bottom, and I'll mist the top and the back. Then I'll go grab my pattern. I don't know if you guys can see me. I spray the pattern, mist the air around me to get rid of any static or any debris or contaminants that are flying around. And I just have to peel the release liner. Again, aggressively spray the bottom. That is what's gonna be in contact with the window for the longest and be sliding the most. And then I somewhat just mist the top. I grab the back edge with the tips of my fingers. In my experience, this does leave contaminants, extremely minor, especially if it's just the very, very tip and your hands are clean. You can touch this stuff up and it's just one little area that you need to touch up. I definitely do not recommend being one of those people that just kind of grab a pattern, touch the adhesive with their fingers. I try to avoid that at all costs. In a situation like this, it's extremely minor. Like I said, just go through and touch that little spot up. So now that I've got my pattern on, I just line up the edge as best I can. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but the front edge of my tint already doesn't really want to tuck, and I still have to tuck quite a ways to not be over that back edge, because these Tesla ones tend to be very tight. Again, their glass is very inconsistent. There is a whole different glass on the outside that I made my cutout with as there is on the inside. So I've got it as close as I possibly can. So yeah, I've got it as close as I possibly can. Now I'm gonna squeegee the top and the side and then the middle. It is currently winter and my shop is very cold. That's why you see me doing these very repetitive short strokes. I'm squeegeeing with pretty minor pressure to prevent it from sliding around on me. I want it to stay put. So I'm gonna use my hand to try and spread this tension the best that I can so that when I'm squeegeeing, I don't have much issues. I don't know if you guys have seen a tint brush where it does all that for you. That's where this would be handy. I do this most times anyway, just to get it to start to tack. But on a day like this, you really want to do it. Before I start to mess with that bottom, I'm gonna make sure that that my pattern is tacked in place. It's not gonna move on me by heating up the top corners, and then I just do a little section in the middle, and this will get it to stay, and then I don't have to worry about it moving on me as I squeegee the rest. I've kind of really taken my time today to explain it well for you guys and to hopefully help you guys out. But this client actually came in for only 2 windows, and they ended up adding a full front windshield, and I have a meeting later, so I have to make sure I'm available for that. So I apologize if some of this is a little quick and not very clear. But I am trying my best with the time that I have, which is actually very limited as a business owner. Alright, so now everything is squeegeed out. I didn't do a whole lot of narrating or much of a walkthrough on the squeegeeing because it's pretty simple. In general, you want to spread tension, or you want to spread your tint or stretch it in a sense. So yeah, just picture that you're stretching it, start from the middle and work your way out. Let's say, you know, you squeegee over here first and squeegee over here, and then you're left with everything in the middle without kind of stretching everything. Then like I stretched everything with my hand first and then I did that. But let's say I did that and I just created a whole, like, I just squeegeed here and then I pulled down, and just imagine I pull down and it also pushes material here in the middle. I'm gonna create tension or extra material like fingers here, and then basically you're gonna be fighting that like non-stop. Push this towel like this, then I've got this extra material here versus, you know, stretching it out. So that's basically what that is. So if I lay this flat and then I come and tack this in place, I know the middle is stretched out. So yeah, sorry if that's more in depth than what you're looking for. I can talk about this stuff forever, just because a very important part of tinting is understanding the material. And if you understand the material, you'll understand what it's telling you to do. You can fix a lot of things. You can just do a very good job because you understand what it's telling you, what it wants to do, what it doesn't want to do, that sort of thing. If you're scared to do that, you can just go front to back. That'll work. But if you understand the material, if one day it's fighting you, you'll know exactly what to do instead. Right now, I could have done front to back. It would have worked. I probably would have fought it more if I didn't do it the way I did it. Would it still have worked? Yeah. Did I probably get a better outcome? Not risk any bubbles, any dry spots, air trails, because I understood the material and I know what to do? Yeah. All right. So this window is tinted. I do have to come and either trim, file, shave this top edge most likely. For sure I have to do the back in this corner, and I'll show you guys that in a bit. I'm gonna go to the other side while this dries, and I'll be right back to show you guys that. All right guys, I'm back, and I'm gonna test how dry it is by giving it a little bit of a peel. And it is mostly dry, but not as dry as I would like for it to be. So I'm gonna heat it up some more. So it's still not as dry as I would like for it to be. So I'm gonna spend a second going over all the edges with a card and my towel to hopefully push out any moisture hanging out on the edges. Just press the tint firmly onto glass to help it tack as it cools. I was really hoping I could show you guys where I grab the tint and it leaves a little bit of dirt. I guess my fingers were really clean today because it left no imperfections that I had to touch up on the side. But I'll show you guys the side so you guys know I'm not lying. I'll do it right now actually while I have time. But I'll plug in a photo where I saw this this car come in with just every single window. You could see exactly where they touched it with their fingers to apply it. And a lot of people use this as common practice. I see a lot of people like on TikTok Live or Instagram videos. Don't do it. Just don't do it. If you want to be a professional, if you are not just doing it as a side hustle and not just, I don't want to say screwing people over, but because there are some people that just want tint and that's what they're getting. But if they want quality, good work, do not do that. Don't be one of those guys. But it's up to you what type of installer you want to be. And this is where I want to be transparent with you guys about everything. This file is definitely a file too big. You don't want to use this type of file for shaving or for filing windows. You can easily damage windows and stuff like this. But when I was learning, I had something like this, and this is what I learned with my windows to be clear. If you're careful enough, you definitely can, but I would say don't do it. I don't recommend it. Get the right file, and I'll show you guys what it looks like after. Yeah, just minimal pressure. Let the file do the work, and you'll be left with a clean edge with no damage to the glass. Very nice corner. Let's get a quick close-up for you guys, if I can get it to focus. There we go. It's really hard to keep this focused. Yep, so I'm just gonna show what I can. There we go. Nice. Oh, unfocused. You guys get the idea. Here's the back edge. Haven't cleaned the glass 100% yet, but as you can see, very clean. Nothing going on. I would have liked to show you guys touching it up and what it looks like, but you guys saw earlier the one row is just everywhere. Okay, I popped the seal back in. That's the easiest thing to do. You just line it up with the front, set it down, push in these little tabs, you're good to go. This is the harder part, but you just roll it back onto the seal. Make sure those clips are nice and popped in there. There we go. And we got our speaker up here at the front. It's got a hook right here that you have to slide it on. So make sure it's up against this and you push it down, but that's it. Set it flat against this, straight down, and that's in. And then you've got your one screw that you would remove if you didn't do it wrong like I did, which would be right here. And if you do happen to remove both, the second one is down under here. Completely done. There we go. All right, so that's gonna be how you install window tint on a 2025 Tesla Model Y, or in general, just a frameless door window. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or if you're watching on school, feel free to post them or ask them. And I'm sorry if my videos don't have much of a structure. I'm just trying to give you guys as much information as I can as I go. Obviously, you know, I am running a business and I am learning how to make content. So these are kind of my first tries. So as they go, they'll get more of a structure to them. And as I know more of what you guys want to see specifically, I can go more in depth on those specific things. But for now, this is what you get, and I hope it is helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like content like this, please subscribe. And if you guys are super serious about stuff like this, you should check out my school community. I'm going to be trying really hard to give you guys as much information as I can there to help you guys learn how to do this to a professional level and make some money. But yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one.